Each triangle has a point on top, the one underneath is 2/3 larger, the other 2/3 smaller. The point reference: I think the triangles are the same, but there is a twisting to the angular momentum, sort of like reins on a horse, maybe a horse and buggy. There is an equilibrium line between them, and that is where the solar system rests or rested. You know, 2/3 of 100 is somewhere around 666 and 1/3 is 333. Both relevant numbers not just for Buddhists but religious Christians and Masons. That 666 is what we call the disbursement algorithm, or churning of the surfaces. In terms of where our current solar system is resting, thought more like receding from that general surface area from the Sun to Pluto, I guess, probably beyond. Okay, I just figured it out, was trying to work something out as I spoke. The bases are equal, but the bottom triangle looks more like an upside down dunce cap, the top more like a regular pyramid, but the baselines meet, they are not separate. Sorry for the inconvenience, I'm not erasing anything while I'm here. So that makes sense of the number. I'll tell you how they showed it, but in another way. I have random daydreams of economic freedom, the chance to just absorb in my work whatever. It's not a constant thought, just a resistance frame to my constants project on the street. It's like hearing a subway stop, that's the feeling in the transition from one thing and now another. On a walk they said I would leave at 109, the beach where I like to walk to, and at 9:01 the next morning a millionaire would show up and give me 500,000 to help fund the project. I always laugh because the story problems they have to keep them simple, relatable to the sensation. Something we are able to digest. If you take an 8x10 page and lay it horizontal, imagine a black triangle wide on top but equal to the other angles, point bottom and, for the sake of the example, drawn to middle. That was the sense of starting at the bottom and getting to where I needed, thinking of my feet external to the horizon on top, then moving on to somewhere else. I started to figure what that would mean, 1/3 of 500,000, and I thought it was 1.5. But then 3.5 is more than 2/3 obviously, so I used a calculator to find 1/3 of 500,000 is 1.66, 2/3 is 3.34. I extrapolated to 100 and I figured it out. TM. What about 109 and 901? Was that nothing or just part of what you explained? SC. No, it bothered me, the preciseness of it. I decided to forget about it and leave the beach early. It seemed like a hook, and I would rather move on than explore a cinching sensation. I walked the several miles home, went to 7-Eleven, rode the elevator, came into my apartment, walked to my bed and looked at the time before I threw my phone down. TM. 109. SC. 108. So 109 must have been when I was peeing, haha. Walking into the restroom. The next day, they said several times, be at your station for the time reference. I wasn't looking for a person or money, I was just curious. I checked my phone several times and right at 9:01 it started raining. There was sun, I think I looked and it said chance of rain 2%, but it was cloudy by then. TM. Nothing with labels. SC. Yes. Don't want to make too much of it, it's just a way to learn, one way they can teach us. They know I enjoy my work, I just don't like it anymore. TM. You wish for money sometimes. SC. Give me free. TM. Ha. I know that line. Kate Kante, I think, didn't check spelling. SC. That's it. You know, when you think of what the slave owner was capable of imagining while having complete control and harness of our energies, it wasn't much. They can imagine much more when they own our products and not our persons, so that's how we designed it. As long as they get a cut, they get what they deserved for looking our way while breathing in. TM. I'm not sure what you mean. SC. The American system was for us. Not you or me specifically, but for the rising resonant, giving lift to Mother Matrix. I think of it by experience like a lifting tree or a tree of lift. A fig tree came to mind. I don't think I've seen one in person. TM. So this thing in your story, the larger orb is pulling in the other smaller orb, then spins back to provide ballast, then spins back 3 times, 3 spins each. Is that significant or just a description? SC. There is more to it. The backspin is 9 rotations and it causes ballasting or the energetic. How did you put it? TM. In the beginning God created the energized expanse. SC. Dark energy. Expanse is a churning appearance of energetic streaming from the perspective of our solar horizon. You could think of it also as condensational expanse. When it spins back in 1 rotation for 9 spins total, it ballasts, or spreads out the dark mass energy that is falling into the funnel back up. At the horizon or where the 2 bases meet, that rising ballast like bubbling sand filters up and gives the planets a resting place more or less, but again it is considered a holding facility. If you were to mark red lines on the glass of a circular cotton candy machine, the balls inside the machine are moving down one line and narrowing with each rotation of the sun, but the constants attribute of the cotton candy as a ballast at any point makes for the appearance of a stable surfacing like a ball rolling around fabric in Einstein's example. 3 cycles of 7 to make it down. We're in our 21st galactic sun cycle and usually our 2 sun system first stabilizes the momentum to a stasis, and then our eventual 4 sun system starts to gain traction and move back up. The 21 cycles it took to make it down takes by a multiple of 10 to evolve back out. There are 210 layers to the solar temple Giza. That would mean, for example, there would be 21 red lines on the circular container of the cotton candy machine. Think of the quantification always starting from a rectangle of 100. From there all the geometry starts, but it is inhibited, as you said, by quantificational refraction. 60 is the circle of an hour, a minute is 60 seconds, but what is a second? It is a frame in itself of 100. That's the resurfacing of the energetic streaming around the harness or Tootsie Roll, for example. The actual agent or process is the collapsing equation illustrated by the mechanics of taffy. So base 1 or 0.00 is like looking at taffy being made. The divided second, for simplicity, let's say 100 or 0.01, is like looking at the area of the taffy surface externally stretching, then collapsing on itself back down. In the energizing constant it's just flow, a reversal of time and a relapse of some specific. Those details don't mean anything, they're just resurfacing former imaging on a scale of 1 to 100, if that makes sense. So are they moving closer together or farther apart? The 2 magnetic densities, if I'm following your story, the bottom one is a long dunce cap-shaped funnel of ballasting or repolarizing energy, the top you called an amplifier. You said earlier it's a more standard shaped triangle, bases meeting at the horizon. That would mean their energy isn't equal. Is it lining out the amplification reference or reeling in? Did you already make a decision on that point? That depends on us, the rising sentient or resonant hypothetical. I don't have all the answers, hopefully enough for a place to start from. Instead of imagining 2 black masses of magnetized reverse energy, think of it like 2 large rectangle glass plates above and below more or less the galaxy, like the 2 bars above and below the star on the Jewish flag. A frame for static flat air or jet streaming for tensive resurfacing. Imagine each sentient animal produced an emission product, and the rate of condensational or expansive energy depends on which direction the coils are twisting or turning. If the coils are turning in, let's say counterclockwise, it's like suction cups or wormholes because it's not releasing but condensing the space around them, reaching out to pull in like the former frame of the quantificational constants of the taffy, but in a narrowing trajectory. If they're turning out, going out, the plates expand because the emission is related to content dispersal or what we call ballasting, becoming ballasting agents. I don't like the example, it's old-fashioned and not worth discussion beyond clarification to a sensation maybe of quantificational collapse singularly yes, but also universally as a sentient race of articulating culture. They cue on the sun, pulling the meaning of all things by orienting the benefit of everything. From each side they cue to the visible precedence in the walls of dark mass mnemonics, the magnetic slide of accumulating density down the glass of a former reference of progress but this time in reverse. To us it is just an energetic harness, letting them fill in the hieroglyphic carvings by creating a way before them. They're experiencing it in reverse and like an induction chamber, one smaller coil to the next. At 2/3's volume, the planets rest on the equilibrium frame between the two triangles. At 2/3 the energy starts collapsing, and starts to run down the walls like chocolate in layers. Energy ballasts up to the horizon or a 2/3 distance from the bottom, then the energetic churning or disbursement kaleidoscopes around like a withering leaf or petal, and in the sense of energy, it's like moisture or rain to the rising ballast of the dark energy distillation. I want to talk about something else real quick. Is that okay? TM. Okay, but that was interesting. SC. Good. We are learning technically the specifics of the momentum reference because it's going to be technically necessary to understand if we are going to make our way through the points of transition with confidence. I don't think you lack the momentum reference or we wouldn't be speaking. I think you lack only the specific articulation for the momentum. TM. My mom always said she couldn't understand your confidence. SC. They said I was born similar to the Steve Martin character in The Jerk. TM. And now. SC. Thanks for the ride. Movie reference. The turning, the specific momentum up, down, back and forth isn't important. For us now it's 2 turns in then out, just like you're unfolding. Then 3 if you want to unwind. When they turn in the energy, they are pulling everything towards the point of relevance even though the sub-momentum still relates to a left-to-right gesture. It doesn't release anything in terms of content dispersal beyond what is necessary to increase the vitalization of the circular inward pull. Pythagoras. Imagine the momentum reference of the electron head over forward then tip down, trying to break into its nucleus center or circumference. It could cause a hook on the coil and reference the contact as an abrasion, a coalescing arrangement with the coil instead of a balancing, what we consider a momentum balance like a 2-sided scale. Hey. If you turn one way to take things in, we turn again but in to make sure what we are doing is responsible, then context analysis turn again to come up with a plan of engagement, zip. The ballasting agent, and no one saw it coming if we're doing it in a way that is keyed to the physics. If you start one way you'll release the other, eventually something just had to happen. I relate to turning in counter or right to left, the release left to right kind of just happened. For them release is the only evidence of a former satiation. For us it is something different. We haven't talked much about how the coils are made. That will help us understand momentum and how the neutron solids, as well as the neutrino migrations, are formed.